Well, Kyle, very excited to have our next guest, one of our favorite people, and definitely when you talk about being a Pirate, this guy is a graduate of East Carolina University and the head baseball coach of East Carolina Pirates, and that would be Coach Cliff Godwin. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on today, fellas.
No doubt, Coach. Very excited about the season. Whenever I talk about COVID-19, the first person that I talk about is you and about the team last year. Not to bring up last year and disappointment. We're in a brand new year, brand new season. But I know that the only reason I bring that up is I know you're excited about getting this season underway for 21.
Of course, we're definitely excited. And, last year's gone, and there's nothing we can do about it. And everybody had to go through different types of sacrifices. And, of course, we were disappointed. But once the season was canceled, then it's on to the next thing. And fall baseball was awesome. It was definitely a breath of fresh air for all of our coaches, all of our players, all of our support staff, just to be out there and be able to practice with our guys brought a sense of normalcy back to us and our program.
Coach, speaking of fall ball, obviously you get a chance to work with your newcomers out there. Who stuck out? Who's going to be able to contribute right away?
Well, look, I just, number one, was impressed with the leadership our older guys gave to the incoming guys, starting with Zoom calls back in June when we could incorporate the incoming freshmen with our current team. And, you got guys like Matt Bridges and Cam Colmore who are 6-year seniors, and for them to make a decision of their life to come back for another year was really important. Tyler Smith, a 5th-year senior, and Jake Kuchmaner. And, of course, your regulars of Ryder Giles and Francisco and Agnos and Bryson Worrell, just a lot of the older guys just helped the younger guys just with the transition. They didn't have summer school like we normally do, and be able to be, worked out by our strength coach at that time and just get incorporated to a lot of different things. So the Zoom calls really helped in June and July, and then once they got here in August, we felt like that our older guys actually had a better relationship and understanding of the new guys because of the Zoom calls that we had over the summer.
You naming names, and Jake Kuchmaner, Ryder Giles, et cetera, are names that Pirate Nation are very familiar with. You just strung off a ton of names, and you know every one of them, and you can picture them in your head. It talks about the experience we have coming back, and the expectations for the 21 season with all the returning starters.
Yeah, expectations are what comes with ECU baseball, and nobody puts more expectations on themselves individually than I do, and our coaching staff and our players. I mean, look, our players understand what wearing the purple and gold means, not just on that diamond, but what it means in the classroom, what it means in the community. So I don't feel like it'll be a distraction. We'll talk about it not being a distraction with preseason rankings and preseason awards, and I say this all the time, but look, it's the truth. I mean, preseason stuff doesn't mean anything. They don't pass out trophies in the preseason. They don't send you to the College World Series in the preseason. So we've got a lot of work to do, and our guys have got back on campus and have done a really good job up to this point. So we're taking it day by day, and it's not a cliche in a time where you don't really know what tomorrow brings in our world. Is every day is a gift, and we'll go out there and attack each day. And we told our guys you got to be really ready to adapt in any situation. And, you look at the Cleveland Browns, I mean, their head coach was in quarantine, and they had to win a playoff game in Pittsburgh. So prepare for maybe me missing the game, or Coach Dietrich, or Coach Palumbo, or your Friday night starter, or your starting catcher, and somebody else being ready to step up and fill that role.
Coach, I wanted to ask you, one of the things you were talking about, expectations in the classroom. I want to give you an opportunity again. Every time we have you on, we talk about GPA. I'm a huge fan of you. One of the reasons is the no-nonsense kind of stuff off the field, including the classroom, but you got to be proud of the boys once again.
Absolutely. Going back to COVID, I mean, once the season was canceled in March, our first focus was, hey, fellas, look, it is what it is. We're all, upset about the season, but we still got a job to do in the classroom, and we're not going to live in the world of pass-fail. That's not the world we live in. That's not the real world, in my opinion, even in a pandemic. You guys can control your academics, so they reeled off a 3.61 in the spring last year, which was the highest team GPA we've ever had, and then they backed it up this fall with a 3.598, which is basically a 3.6 again. So really proud of what they've done and just continue to make strides, and our older guys making sure that the incoming guys understand how important it is with our culture, what we do in the classroom.
Yeah, that's amazing to put those kind of GPAs, particularly right now in the midst of all the distraction with the pandemic and virtual learning, and so it shows how committed they are. The pandemic, you hate to. It seems like it's the focus of every interview with every coach out there, but we don't have we haven't seen a schedule yet for East Carolina or any college baseball team because of the pandemic. Do we know a start date yet, or is it still up in the air?
Well, we are scheduled to play on February 19th, which is the first scheduled date you can play in Division I baseball. And we're scheduled right now to play Rhode Island at home. And I would tell you, as I tell our players, I mean, Rhode Island could call us up 3, 4, 5 days out and say, hey, we can't come down because there's been a COVID outbreak. Well, we're still going to look to play. You know, if we have to go to UNC Wilmington or Carolina or State, whoever will let us play, we just want to play baseball. And, you know, we've got to be ready to bob and weave and adapt throughout the entire spring.
Okay, so as of right now, typical February 19th, around Valentine's Day start date, not being pushed back as of right now.
No, it is not. You know, there's different conferences that have maybe chosen to back things up, but as of right now, we're on schedule for February 19th, and we're playing at Clark LeClaire, so we're excited about that.
Do you know
Coach,
of any school? One follow-up question to this. Do you know of any schools as of right now in any conferences that are decided not to play this season?
I try not to look at social media too much, so I'm not well versed at that. I'm sure that maybe there's a school or two or a conference maybe, but I don't know.
Okay.
It seems like with football and basketball, the Ivy League is one that comes to mind. They always bow out. But, Coach, speaking of COVID, another COVID question as far as the fans. I know there's so many people I've talked to on the street, people that I know personally that are Pirate fans, so excited about Pirate baseball. Do we know, is it going to be the wonderful 7% as far as fans allowed? Have you heard anything?
I don't have a direct line to the governor of North Carolina, unfortunately. So I don't know if he cares a lot about what I think. But we'll follow whatever the protocols are from our governor and the CDC. And as of right now, I know it would be very limited of how many fans we could have in the stands. But holding out hope, as we all are, that there'll be more fans down the road.
And one of the things, too, Coach, is the fact we're very excited about, and maybe this is a blessing in disguise as far as fans are concerned. We've been talking on our show about the very fact of fans going ahead and sign up for ESPN Plus, the fact that baseball is going to be on ESPN Plus this year.
Yeah, really exciting stuff. I think, you know, the brand of ECU and ECU baseball just being at the touch of your finger when you're on Apple TV or some kind of smart TV, you go to ESPN Plus, boom, you're there. And, of course, our broadcast and our feed is really good. I know Greg Pierce does a really good job just organizing people to make sure our feed is really good and it's high def. And, you know, we're really lucky to have something that looks as good as it does on TV.
Do you know, maybe a better question for Corey, do you know if Corey is going to be doing the ESPN Plus games, or is he still going to be on IMG?
That's a good question. I have not got confirmation if he will be doing that or not. So okay. I do not know the answer to that question. Sorry.
We need to touch base with Corey.
No doubt about it. Coach, as far as the season's concerned, one of the things I know that you get tired of talking about is Omaha, but one question that's not as far as when we're going to get to Omaha, but one of the things I always love is reading on, speaking of social media and tweets, is the very fact you say another stud coming to East Carolina. And I've always told people, if Cliff Godwin says the guy's a stud, he must be a stud. And one of the things I know that you have to go to Omaha is a lot of pitching. Is that something we can count on this year?
Yeah, and going back to your initial part of it is, I don't get tired of talking about Omaha and the College World Series. Look, it's not something that our guys don't strive for each and every day. I just want people to understand that there's only 8 teams that go, and nobody
Right.
wants East Carolina baseball to go more than myself, our coaching staff, our players. And the thing as I grow older is we're not going to be defined as a team of not being the best versions of ourselves just because we don't punch the ticket to Omaha. And our kids work their tails off. They do the right things on the field, off the field. Of course, they're not perfect, but at the same point in time, you know, Ryder Giles, Francisco, Agnos, Seth Cadell, Cooch Manor, Tyler Smith, Cam Colmore, and Matt Bridges, regardless if we go there or not this year, that's not going to be the definition of what kind of people and players they are. And, of course, we want to go there, and we're trying to go there every single day.
Coach, one of our guests we've had on, and we're going to have him on again, is Brian Kane, somebody that you know very well. I know the cliche that you always hear that any kind of sport is 90% skill, like mental, and 10% skill. But what does he bring to the table as far as the baseball program?
Brian just does a really good job of helping our guys with a lot of things, but I would say the biggest thing of mindset, their routines, their releases, being able to get themselves back into the present moment when, you know, maybe things are speeding up for them on the field. But a lot of things they're able to do, you know, just life lessons as well, with managing their daily routines and showing our guys different things that guys at the major league level or guys he has come in contact with that have been drafted really high, things that they have done in their processes to be very successful.
As far as the one other question I had too, as far as dealing with COVID is concerned with scholarships, and obviously I'm sure you probably want to have more scholarships in baseball. That's a whole other show we don't have time for. I know you're very busy, but as far as this year is concerned, how do you manage, you already have a big roster as it is, how do you manage, I guess that's something that's going to be a after the season kind of thing of knowing who's coming back, and like we did this past year?
Oh, it's a equation that has a ton of variables, and the variables change every single day. And the draft is pushed back, and you don't know how many rounds the draft's going to be. And of course, you have multiple classes now of being draft eligible with the COVID guys. So, you know, everybody is, you know, the same year, but they're a year older, so they're draft eligible. So all of our COVID sophomores are draft eligible. All of our COVID juniors are draft eligible. And of course, you got the seniors. So, and then you got your incoming guys. So it is an equation that I tell you what, man, it's become more complicated by the day. But at the end of the day, we just got to have open lines of communication and communicate with each individual player and do the best we can.
Could you write a book on just this past year, all that you've had to deal with as a coach? I mean, you've been coaching for a good while now, but I would think that you could do that for one season. You could write the COVID year or whatever the title would be.
All coaches could.
Well, I don't want to go back there, to be honest with you, so I'll let you guys do that. I want to write about something more positive and something that's a little bit happier than what we had dealt with last year.
No doubt.
No doubt. Well, Coach, thank you so much. We're looking forward to this season. I know you're very, very busy. You carved out some time for us, and I don't know how you do all that you do, but you do it very well, and we're very excited about 21 and to see how things come out.
Well, I appreciate everything you guys do to promote, you know, ECU baseball and all of ECU athletics. So thank you for your time, and go Pirates.
Let's just talk about the challenges.
Is there an opening statement?
No.
Coach, the challenges of this season with COVID. And first off, did you ever think you'd be still fighting this virus when last season shut down and now you move into this season?
That's a loaded question. Of course, I don't think I would have ever dreamed to be kind of dealing with COVID, not kind of really dealing with COVID, dating back to whenever the season was canceled last year. I mean, when you look at it, we've almost been dealing with this for a year now. And people ask a lot, like, or say, hey, we're so sorry. What happened to you guys last year? And look, I lived in the moment of the season being canceled for maybe a day or two, and then it's just on to the next thing with our guys. And the first thing that we could do last spring was control our academics, and we got a 3.61 team GPA, which was the highest team GPA we've ever had. Back that up this fall with a 3.598. So the guys have done really well in the classroom. But no, I didn't. But as we all know, we're just really happy and excited, and our guys are super pumped up that we're going to have the ability to go out there and compete this year. And of course, it's going to be different. And, you know, we had already banked on no fans. That's the way we had prepared ourselves mentally. Now, are we keeping our fingers crossed and praying and hoping that by May or June that there's going to be fans in the stands? Of course, but we're just taking it day by day. And as I've told our guys, dating back to when we got together in the fall for the first time, every day is a gift. And we've really gone about that every single day, taking every day as a gift and an opportunity to be together when at times, of course, we were not together in the spring physically. We could be together virtually. But I know for me as a coach, it's definitely strengthened the relationship with our players even more, just being able to be around our guys and treating every day as a gift.
Hey, Cliff, this is Troy. Quick question. What do you think the weather's going to be like opening day?
Well,
just
Troy,
a joke, Coach. It's just, sorry, Ronnie, I took your question.
Hopefully not like today.
Seriously, though, what about managing the roster this year? You got a bunch of guys back that normally you wouldn't have with this weird, COVID year and the rules. So you've got more players than you probably were expecting this season. Just discuss the challenges of managing the roster this year.
Well, Troy, it really goes back to the end of the spring when the NCAA said that the seniors could come back, the draft's being reduced, and a lot of uncomfortable conversations that I had with some players that were a part of our program that are no longer a part of our program. And I have really good relationships with our players, and sometimes the conversations are not comfortable, but there's some guys that probably would be here that are not here right now, but with the way COVID has affected guys coming back, the draft being reduced, guys had to entertain other opportunities to go elsewhere, which I just was really honest and say, hey, it's going to be tough for you to play. And of course, I want those individuals to be able to go out and compete if they feel like they can do that somewhere else. So for us, it really was managed, Troy, back in April and May more so than this fall. I mean, once the fall was here, you kind of have your roster set for what it's going to be in the spring.
Can you update as far as the preseason, kind of where you're at now? I know, you've had some COVID issues and different things. Where are you at practice wise? And this weekend, I'm assuming you'll be able to scrimmage, that type of thing. Just whatever you can kind of update where y'all are doing now.
You mean we had some COVID issues because, everybody said that we had a cluster. So I laugh a little bit, not that COVID's not serious, but just to define cluster, which I'm sure all you guys know because you guys are in the media, but that means 5 or more. So we have 40 players. So no offense, 5's not that many. I'm not saying we had 5 or we had 8 or we had 12, but 5's not that many. The other thing is because a lot of our guys went through COVID and COVID protocols in the fall, we have right now 18 guys that have antibodies. So almost half our team have antibodies right now, which is awesome because they still have the antibodies to fight off the disease. So we do still have quite a few guys that are in the COVID protocol. We should get most of those guys back either late this weekend or early next week, depending on all their blood work and the EKGs and the return to play stuff. But we're excited to just get out there and compete this weekend, which we will scrimmage Friday, Saturday, Sunday, weather permitting.
Besides just having guys available, can you talk about some of the intangibles that you're kind of hoping to, be in your favor to make the difference in having a really good team and just having just above average team?
That's a good question. Number one, our guys have all said to us as coaches that the one thing that COVID has allowed, going back to the spring Zoom calls, the summer Zoom calls, when we got the freshmen that are now on our roster incorporated into our team and just getting them going with our culture, is that because they're creating such a tight bubble in the fall, they've become closer to one another. So the positive is they have better relationships probably than any other team that we've ever had here since I've been the head coach. And some of it was forced because of COVID, but man, you talk about guys that really care about one another, and I think we have that. The challenges for us is they are super close. So at times at practice, they maybe joke around too much and maybe not be as locked in. But other than that, it's been a tremendous asset for us that our guys are super close to one another.
When you look at the scrimmages this weekend, anything you're kind of looking for in particular? Or do you think that's a big kind of next step, just competition wise, and getting them out there and getting closer to the season type of thing?
Well, we need to play live baseball. You know, it's one thing to go out there and do a coach pitch scrimmage, but to get the pitchers facing live batters, get the batters to face live pitching, that's going to help us get prepared for February 19th, whether we're playing Rhode Island or somebody else. You know, that's the other thing that we've prepared our team to be able to do is, look, we can be called in a moment's notice and say, hey, look, we can't come play you because of COVID protocols, and we will do everything we can to just go play baseball. So our guys are super excited. Once we got back from Christmas, I know they've been looking forward to that February 19th date. They feel like it's probably tomorrow, which there's a lot of work to be done between now and February 19th.
Coach, when you look at this year's team, do you feel like with the guys coming back and the recruiting classes you have brought in, that this has the potential to be the deepest team you've ever had?
Definitely has the potential. You know, we need to, stay healthy, but I think we probably could maneuver through some injuries better this year than we've ever been able to in the past, especially on the mound. And as we know, injuries are part of playing sports. So I want to fall in and take what Nick Saban said and just kind of be a copycat, I guess. But we don't want to look at those guys that are on the bench as backup players. They're just starters that haven't got into the game yet. So we want our guys to all be prepared. We've talked to them also about that more so than ever, the guy that stands next to you playing your position's got to be more ready to play your position than they ever have been before because of COVID, because of the contact tracing. So we want to be able to go out and look, our goal is for us, ECU baseball, to play every game possible that we can play. And I look at Alabama football, I look at Clemson football, and those are just two because I follow those two teams pretty closely. And I don't think they ever missed a game because their COVID issues or their COVID protocols. I'm not saying we couldn't miss a game because another team has an outbreak, but we want to control everything we can control. And if we can do that, then we're going to put ourselves in pretty good shape.
Coach, Thomas Francisco, he's played a couple different positions so far. And in the Purple Gold World Series, he played left field. Is that where you're planning on him playing this year? And if so, how has he made that transition?
We wanted to get Franny a lot of work in the outfield just because he's never been out there consistently. And I'll tell you this, our coaches have been thrilled with his adjustment to play out there. He will either play left field, first base, DH, but he'll be in the lineup. So don't worry about that. But he'll either play left field, first base, but he also can play third still, in a pinch. So we need that guy in our lineup.
Since last season ended, and since it obviously wasn't a full season, it's been so long. Have there been any guys during this long offseason that have made gains, either in the weight room or on the field, that type of thing, that have really kind of used this time in a positive way?
Well, I'll go back to just the COVID time in the spring. One guy in particular, actually a few, but the one that jumps out to me to start with is Ryder Giles. Ryder played tremendous shortstop for us in a brief amount of time last year, but a guy that did not make one error in the entire 2020 calendar. So that's the 17 games we played in the spring, plus the however many games we played inter squads in the fall, which guys got up to 70 at bats. So a lot of baseball. That's pretty impressive, but he got stronger, he got faster. Him and I were able to work on his swing virtually, during the spring, and he's a much better hitter today than he was last spring, and that's a credit to him and the way he went about his business. Carter Spivey is another guy that went home and really worked on his glove side command of his fastball and tightened up his slider. And Coach Dietrich and Coach Knight and Spives really worked on that during the quarantine period, and he was a different guy when you look at it. And then the fall, the guys that really stood out of making big jumps to me was Carter Spivey, Carson Wisenhunt, Ryder, Seth Cadell. Seth made as big a jump for me and our staff from a mentality standpoint, caught every inning of an inter squad, took foul tips off his body. I think he struck out 3 times and close to 70 at bats, tied for the league in home runs with Norby with 5. So a guy that really has put it together and is a much better player today than he was a year ago.
Coach, when you look at the starting rotation, I know you're not going to set it obviously this far out, but having 3 guys back with Smith, Cooch, and Gavin that have some experience, I mean, do you kind of maybe envision them in a perfect world starting the year as starters? And then who are some other guys that could potentially fight for those roles?
You mean, you don't think I'm going to give you the rotation today?
I'm going to say that you're not going to give it to us.
There's 5 guys that really came out of the fall that are going to compete for those spots. And you mentioned 3 of them, Gavin Williams, Tyler Smith, Jake Kuchmaner, but the other 2 are Carter Spivey and Carson Wisenhunt. Carson's ceiling is as high as anyone I've ever coached in my life. And that's not to add pressure on him. I told him he just needs to go out and do what he did in the fall. If he does that, then we'll be in good shape. But 6'4" lefty, 90-95 with a wipeout breaking ball, and has been able to manage his emotions a lot better than he has before. Now the kicker is going to be is, can we do that with another jersey in the batter's box? Because as we know, that's different. But those 5 guys really did a great job of taking the ball, starting, and making it really hard on our hitters. Another guy that could start is Cam Colmore. And Cam's obviously been a swing guy for us, a lot of different roles, but Cam would be in the mix if something happens, somebody gets hurt, COVID protocols, and we feel very confident with Cam and what he can do. Another guy we're trying to just push his pitch count a little bit is Skylar Brooks. So we're trying to develop as many starters as possible, because as we know with COVID, you might get dinged for contact tracing and you might have a guy miss a start. So we got to have a lot of guys prepared. Tristan Kimmel, another guy that started for us some last year, and his stuff's a lot better. And if we can keep getting him to treat every pitch like a separate entity, then he's going to have the ability to do that as well.
Kind of along those lines, with CJ Mayhew last year, we got a taste of how good he can be. Obviously, that Ole Miss game, maybe what do you envision for him, being a bullpen guy or a closer or swing guy? What I don't know, role could he potentially have in a year like this?
Well, the one thing I have learned with just the minimal amount of media interviews I've done is sometimes I forget, because we do have more pitching, but Mayhew is a guy that could potentially start. But, if we were to play this weekend, him, Matt Bridges, Ryder Giles, Garrett Saylor, and Cam would be kind of those go-to guys out of the bullpen. And, of course, we've got some freshmen that pitch really well at times. So there's a lot of different options, but we're definitely going to hand the ball to those guys to start with, because they've got a track record of doing it at a very high level.
Coach, scrolling through the roster, I noticed Turner Brown is listed as a graduate manager. Is he back with the team helping you guys out this year?
He sure is. So the way the NCAA rules work are, if you're a graduate assistant, you have to have played at that school, and you also have to be within your 5-year window. So Turner playing a year and a half of professional baseball, then he's not considered a graduate assistant coach. He can be a graduate manager. So Turner does want to get into college coaching at some point. So it allows him to be with us every single day. As a player, you get to see, mostly of what the coaches do, but it's always amazing to me, even the guys that are the most knowledgeable about our program that play for us, then they see how many hours that the coaches work, and they're here before every player gets here. They leave after every player has left. And so he's getting a taste of that. And, he can also throw BP and hit fungos as well, being a graduate manager.
Coach, when you look at college baseball as a whole this year with so many quality guys coming back, do you think, outside of the obvious COVID stuff, do you think this could be kind of the most talented crop of college baseball teams that we've seen recently?
100%. I tell our guys all the time, we're good. we're probably as deep as we've ever been, but we're not the only team saying that. There's a lot of teams out there saying that because the draft was shortened. I think college baseball's product that you will see in the talent level will be at the highest you've ever seen it because of the shortened MLB draft.
I know it's kind of a long way away, but fitting, I guess, to ask this today. But what are your kind of early thoughts about the 4-game weekend series thing and how to manage that in league play? I mean, it's obviously something different that will be an aspect of this season eventually.
Ronnie, I just glad they're letting us play baseball, and I'm not trying to be, funny. I'm really not, but I don't care if they told us to play 5 games in 3 days. We'd show up and we'd play. If the Dodgers showed up on February 19th, we'd play them. We'd probably get beat, but we'd still play them. So we're going to take it one day at a time, and when we get to that, we'll figure it out. But we have enough pitching to manage that. Those weekends. Now we got to go out there and play well and pitch well and all that good stuff, but we're in a good situation to be able to get through those 4 games. And the conference still has not came back with a final decision on what day the doubleheader is going to be on. We're pushing for it to be on the first day, except on the Easter weekend, which is opening weekend, which it would stay on that Friday. So we play Thursday, Friday, Saturday, that opening weekend of conference. And then the last weekend going to the conference tournament, it will be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and it will be on the first day for that. As far as we know, we're trying to figure all that stuff out. We also don't know if it'll be 2 nines, on the doubleheader. I'm 99% sure it won't be 2 sevens because I don't want to play 2 sevens. I want to play at least a 9 and a 7, and that's what the majority of the head coaches want. We are also pushing for the major league extra inning rule for the 4-game series weekends in conference, which I think we have a good chance of. The NCAA has to just basically approve that for us to play, and I think that will go through as well.
Coach, are there any other questions for Coach?
Yeah, I got one
Okay,
last
go
one.
ahead.
The competition in the outfield, obviously with Bryson coming back and Hoover, Small, some of those guys, and Francisco, can you just talk about how you maybe see that envision playing out and what that competition will be like in the outfield?
Well, I feel like Bryson and Hoove and Franny and Smalls are all going to play out there. I also feel like Riley Johnson, a freshman who dealt with a quad issue in the fall, but has proven that he's a gamer. And he's like Lane, except he probably has a little bit more power, and he's a gamer. And we're super excited about him. But there's also other guys that could go out there as well. I mean, AMAC is probably the guy that's not talked about as much, and that's Alec Makaravich. It's way easier to say AMAC for you media people than to try to say that last name. So I would go with AMAC. But he's a stud, and he can play third. He can play second. He could probably play short in a pinch. He can play all outfield positions, and he's a switch hitter. So I know one thing, that guy's going to play for us. I don't know if he'll be starting on opening day, but there's never been a guy in our program, and this is the highest compliment I can give any person that ever comes to our program, that has gotten more out of every practice that we've ever had at East Carolina than that guy. The intent on every ground ball he takes, every BP session, it's like he's playing for the national championship every single day. And that guy had a great fall. He's had a great preseason up to this point, and we're super excited about him. So he's going to play a lot for us this year.
Okay, any other questions for Coach Godwin?
Malcolm, I just want to say thanks for them to take the time to come out today. And I know times are different, and I know you guys would rather be at Clark LeClaire, as I wish you guys could be here as well. But thanks for what you do to promote ECU baseball and also ECU athletics. And I know I can be a pain sometimes, but I do really appreciate you guys taking an interest to our sport and to our players.
Appreciate it very much, Coach. Thanks for joining us today. Guys, we'll get Coach Palumbo on here in just a second, so just bear with us, okay?
Yeah, I'm just going to walk out, Malcolm, and JP's going to come in here.
Sounds good, Coach.
Wait.
Yes.
Good to go.
All righty. All right, we'll just go ahead and anybody got questions for Coach Palumbo?
Coach, Cliff talked a lot about Ryder's progression since last year, and obviously he was tremendous defensively in the shortened season. Just what have you seen from him growth-wise since last spring?
Yeah, I mean, obviously defensively, it's tough to improve on what he did on the field last year in the short spurt. I think he played in about 14 games, had a little bit of an injury there the last weekend, but he, really just continued to improve there defensively. But I think the biggest jumps, as Coach mentioned, have been more just showing up on the offensive side, just because of his physicality. You'll see it on the base pass. He's a little bit quicker, and really just that extra, coming back and getting a chance to just be one of the older guys here within the program, to see his confidence level emerge in really all aspects of his game. And I think the last weekend we played our Purple Gold here in the fall. In my opinion, if you're up in the stands watching the game, I thought he was the best player on the field, just really taking over the game in all areas. And, I think he always been there defensively. That was kind of his calling card. And I think really he's just kind of, with hard work and work in the weight room and, work with, in all areas in the cages and with Coach, he's really become a well-rounded, player. So been fun to watch, and he's just a tremendous leader day to day. To watch him, we have a big group of freshman infielders. So to see him kind of take charge of those guys and lead the way, and I know it's been documented pretty well how influential Turner Brown was on Ryder. To see him kind of pass that on to a large group of infielders is certainly going to make them, better their freshman year and moving forward. And just kind of, as we talk about passing that down within the program, hopefully it'll, continue to help us down the road in the future.
Coach, can you talk about your general feeling about this team and what's your general inkling about how good this particular ball club can be?
Obviously we're confident. We're confident in the group of guys. You have a lot of older players returning on both sides, defensively on the mound and certainly within the lineup. But, really that doesn't necessarily matter. Everyone's going to be older this year, and we know that, or the players know that. And it always gives you a comfort level as a coach to some degree to run out guys in the lineup that just have been there, and I think that's going to be important this year, with less fans in the crowd. Less fans in the stands, and just the type of season that, at some point in time, we know we'll face some adversity, and just having older guys that have been there, done that, and kind of been through it is going to certainly benefit us. But we also know, again, everybody else has that as well, and it's going to be taking it day by day. And it doesn't matter if we're older, younger. Coach Godwin lays out the plan of just focus on today, continuing to get 1% better. And that's just always going to be the approach that we take, whether or not we're older, younger. It's allowed us to be very consistent in how we approach, practice, and how we approach road trips, and how we approach, batting practice before the game, and just getting caught up in the process is I think vital. It doesn't matter if you're the best team in the country on paper or you're the worst. That's going to put you in the best possible spot to be successful and win, and just kind of how we continue to go about it. So yes, we're older on both sides, and as a coaching staff, that gives us a little bit of comfort, but that's not going to matter come opening day when the other teams show up.
When you look at this season, the schedule and, roster and depth, obviously it's going to be a different season probably than any other. Is that something y'all are kind of harping on, at scrimmages and practices, that you have to build that depth, and really every guy on the roster could play a role, more so than maybe seasons past? You always want your guys to be that way, but is that really important, you think, this preseason?
It's always important, but even more so this season. And I think especially for the younger guys to understand that, it's easy as a freshman player in the program right now to look out, and there's a lot of guys that have started for a while, and you may not necessarily anticipate breaking into that spot right away, but you're really a hand injury away, and someone tested positive, from hopping in there, and you've seen it across the landscape of every sport that started playing since since the virus showed up. You see the stories over and over again about players who weren't expected to be in the lineup or playing in the national championship game. You see it every day. So, we talk about it. Coaches talked about it, just continue to prepare and really, you shouldn't have to, it's just kind of how, again, we go about our practice, but you also want them to have the mentality of, at any point in time, you could be called on to play a huge role for us. So we talk about it. It's certainly important, never more than now for sure.
Coach, kind of going off of what you said earlier, who are some of those younger infielders who have made a positive impact since coming to the program this year?
Yeah, I mean, there's a big group of them, to be honest with you. Joey Barini's been working out at shortstop, and Austin St. Laurent is another one that, can bounce around and play multiple positions. Jacob Starling is a second baseman. He's been working out mainly at second base, has some athleticism. He can go to the outfield a little bit as well. And, CJ Boyd is another utility type player that can play some second base, move to the outfield. Josh Moylan at first base is probably the one that is the furthest along and having the opportunity to receive significant playing time early on. So he's a big left-handed bat out of Maryland, and he's done a nice job continuing to work defensively. His calling card is kind of his offensive big left-handed power hitter. So had a great fall starting out, especially the first 2 to 3 weeks. And Josh has done a great job working with coach. So we're expecting big things out of them, but a large group of them. So we're bringing them along, and obviously they have great leadership in Ryder and Zach Agnos and Connor Norby. And, as mentioned, AMAC, just how all they got to do is watch those guys, how they go about their work and their practice, and they're going to continue to make huge strides. So, so we're excited about all of them, but I think Josh is the one that kind of stands out, right now the most over at first base.
Norby had that tremendous start to last season. What will it take for him to continue that and try to, replicate it as best as possible over a full season?
Yeah, for Connor, just be himself. I mean, if he is extremely talented, I tell people and pro scouts all the time, there's really nothing he can't do. Hit 5 balls out this fall, doesn't strike out, can steal bases, has the ability to make the routine play consistently, but also the ability to make the web gems. I mean, he can make any type of play, tremendous arm strength. So there's really nothing that the kid can't do. And I think it took Connor a year in our program just to kind of develop that confidence and realize that, hey, I do belong here at this level. And he was just starting to kind of hit his stride. I felt like last year on the offensive side, played outstanding defense. We worked on a few things with his double play turn that he needed to continue to improve at. But really across the board, he just needs to be himself, show up, play hard, believe in himself. He's going to hit high in our lineup, and we're going to count on him to do big things, and he knows that, and he's ready for it.
Maybe I should ask Coach Godwin this, but I know you're probably still involved a little bit with the catcher position. And what is that like kind of behind Seth Caddell? And again, as we talked earlier, depth is an issue or an important thing. I mean, I'm assuming that can be part of the catching position too. I mean, we know Caddell, but what are things kind of like behind him, I guess? Yeah,
Ben Newton is back, as well. And Ben played in spurts last year and also DH'd, hopped into the DH role a little bit towards the back end. I also thought Ben was really starting to kind of hit his stride and put together some really quality at bats last year. And, we're going to count on Ben. Obviously you talk about those 4-game series on weekends. That's a lot of baseball in a short period. So Ben's ready. He's gotten more physical, kind of complements Seth in that he's a left-handed bat, that can come off, but he's continued to make, to grow as well and make big strides. He's in his second year in the program. So I think he's just much more comfortable, being in the program and being himself. And then behind that, Justin Wilcoxon is in his second year and has really worked hard in the weight room, left-handed bat as well. And started, very, very strong. And he's continued to come on. Joey Rezick is a freshman as well that was came into the program this year and has a ton of tools, can really run, ton of power on the left hand. Other than probably Bryson Worrell, one of the strongest guys at the plate in terms of exit velocity. So a lot of things to work with. He's worked with, Coach Godwin and Coach Knight there behind the plate to continuing to just kind of develop that side of his game, but very talented as well. So there's a group of guys back there. And, as we, again, we've talked a whole lot about, they all need to be ready to go. Right now, obviously Seth and Ben are probably the two that are, would be the first 2 options up.
And how, especially the fall, when y'all got to compete and actually get out there, you know, the way the last season ended and we're doing this virtually. I mean, there's so much kind of virtual and different. How much did you and think the guys just enjoy competing in the fall and then this weekend and preseason, like actually just getting out on the field and playing is, I'm sure, an enjoyment compared to everything else that's going on in the world, I guess.
Oh, it definitely makes you appreciate it. I mean, just being outside and getting with the guys and seeing them, you know, in their comfort level, you know, and just enjoying being around each other, enjoying playing the game. And I mean, it kind of takes you back a little bit, to be quite honest with you, when you hit that period of time where, you know, you just weren't sure, you know, when we're going to get a chance to all be together as a group and play, and when that was all going to be allowed to happen. So, yeah, I tell people all the time, we're ready to play a game. I mean, this is the longest stretch that college baseball players or college coaches have ever gone, you know, at least in my, 16, 17 years of coaching now, without getting a chance to go play a game, you know. So we're all just the opportunity to get out and go work at it. It has been throughout the fall and the early part of the preseason. You know, coach talks about it all the time. Don't take it for granted, you know, and make sure we maximize the days, because at any point in time, I mean, you see it in Michigan athletics right now. You don't know when you're not going to get a chance potentially. So you got to make sure that you're taking advantage of it. But a huge piece of that is just getting its opportunity to enjoy being around each other and working with the guys and watching them, you know, enjoy what they're doing.
Okay. Do we have anything else for Coach Palumbo this morning?
Hey, yeah, just kind of building off that a little bit. Coach had mentioned how everything they've gone through, the bubble in the fall, how it's made this team the closest he's probably ever seen. What have you seen from that aspect, and how do you think that'll be helpful in the season?
Yeah, I certainly agree, and you know, it's one of those situations where the guys are just having, you know, they're around each other, you know, and anytime, I mean, look, going back to when Coach got here and we started out and you know, we made the guys put their cell phones up when they came into the facility, and just hearing how the guys talked about it just brought us closer together. We had to interact with each other. We had to speak with each other and talk, and that carried over the field, and they felt like our relationships grew. And, you know, yes, because of the virus, you know, it forced us to now take another level, you know, and now it's even away from the stadium. You know, really the guys are around each other. They're spending time with each other. They're watching other, you know, games on TV, and they can't go out and, you know, go to other places and just go out. So it's forced you to be around each other more often. And you know, with that, the guys have continued to become close. And look, this is going to be a close group anyways. You know, but I think it really brings kind of the freshmen and the older guys even that much closer together, and they can just work on those relationships more in depth. So all of those things you feel like are no question positives and going to carry over when we get into the season and start facing adversity and all of those things. But you know, just the nature of it has brought us together. And you know, somebody was kind of talking with me today, we're having a conversation, and he said, well, you know, X was, you know, as a positive of the virus. And I said, there's plenty of positives, you know, if you really take a step back, there's plenty of positives. Certainly there's all things we wish would be a little more normal. But without question, one of the positives is the people that you're close to, you're closer with than ever before. And that goes with our team as well.
Okay. Any other questions for Coach Palumbo? Okay, Coach, thank you for your time this morning.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Okay. In just a couple minutes, we'll get Coach Dietrich on. Coach, how are you, sir?
Good, thank you.
All righty, we're just going to go right into questions for Coach Dietrich.
Coach, it seemed like last year at this time we were talking about, you know, all the new faces. You were trying to learn new arms. How much more comfortable are you going into year two and kind of have a better grasp on what some of the guys can do differently, et cetera?
Comfortable, yeah. I've gotten more comfortable, obviously, getting to know the guys and building relationships with them. We have 3 freshman pitchers, so in a sense, it's a lot of returners. So to have that, you know, continuously building a relationship with those guys has been great. So again, it's been exciting for me to keep on getting to know the guys and see what they're working at and getting better at and keep growing with them. So I've enjoyed it.
It's going back a ways maybe, but how did you follow it? What were maybe the talks like leading up to the MLB draft, obviously with Gavin Williams and that type of thing? And I'm sure that's a positive in your role that he's back with the team. And how has he kind of transitioned out of that mode at all and going in, returning to college for him?
Well, I think every junior, when they or anyone that's draft eligible, obviously, their mind, they're excited and kind of see what lies ahead. And so with that, obviously only being 5 rounds and Gavin not getting picked, that's something that's obviously we benefited from. And I think it's helped maybe put a little chip on his shoulder to come back, hungry and wanting to show that what he's capable of, because we all know that he's got, a huge potential and upside. So I think that's kind of helped him and drive him to continuously, get better and grow. And that's what I've seen. Obviously he had a great fall, and he's a guy that's we're going to count on to help us and the staff get better. But yeah, I think that any guy that's in that situation to get drafted, they've, like I said, they're excited, but yet, sometimes only so many guys are, happy when they get the first couple rounds, but what have you. So getting your name heard is a good thing. But like I said, I think that's helped him kind of come back with a little different mindset and knowing that, hey, he's excited to, keep on tapping his potential and keep growing as a pitcher. So good things have gone for him in fall, and seriously, we're excited to see what he can do for spring.
Coach, last year we didn't get to see a lot of the newcomers into the pitching staff. So how have guys like AJ Wilson, Bradley Wilson, how have they progressed despite not really seeing a lot of game action?
I think a lot of guys have. The fall was great. It was awesome. It was awesome just to be out there and just compete and have an opportunity to see what guys can do. But AJ Wilson had a great fall. He was really good. He's done a lot of work. He's worked hard at commanding the ball. He's got a really good slider. But yet he's competed hard. And a lot of guys that didn't get an opportunity last year, I think that, again, that's what's helped them come back with a little little hunger to prove that, hey, I want to show you I won innings. Obviously spring's a different animal, so to speak, but fall, a lot of guys have come back. Carson Wisnahan, CJ Mayhew, obviously he was going in the right direction in spring, but everyone's come back, in my mind, kind of hungry. When you're pretty deep on the mound, and we're blessed to have a lot of talent, a lot of guys are wanting to show you that, hey, I'm capable. And that's the great, I guess, dilemma or problem that we have as a coaching staff, is we want to, when you have that many options, so to speak, that's what's been fun. Carter Spivey had a great fall. Again, fall is great to evaluate and check guys out and see what they're doing, the progression that some have made. And but as you know, spring, we want them to keep the same mindset and keep attacking and keep going after it, not because the lights are on and you're playing an opponent that things have to change. So we want them to continuously be hungry. And like I said, it's just to name a few guys that I've said, but there's a lot of guys that have done a good job, continuously shown their improvement, especially when we're facing a lot of good hitters in our lineup.
That seems to be a theme that probably with y'all and a lot of teams, just roster and depth and talent, just the way that guys returning in the draft, kind of the way rosters have been kind of formalized. Does that mean, are you expecting a lot of top end pitching when you look at league series and that, weekend games? I mean, that's going to be a huge part of games across the country in college baseball, you think?
Yeah, I totally agree. A lot of people are going to have more depth. A lot of guys, with a shortened draft, a lot of incoming student athletes and then returning guys. I think everyone's roster is going to be a lot more deeper, and that's the fun part. That's where we're excited to accept that challenge and keep telling our guys, just because we feel confident in our baseball team that every team out there is going to be talented and they're going to be ready to go. So that's the fun part, and I think that's what we continuously work at and practice and what have you. Is just keep getting after it and telling our guys that, hey, we got to play the game of baseball. It's not about just facing other rosters that are talented. It's just we got to play the game. And that's our job as coaches, to keep helping them refine their skill set and keep on doing what they need to do to face the good teams that are going to be out there. That's the fun part. Like I said, it's going to be fun. Looking forward to it as a coach.
This group that you've got right now, how's it kind of compared to staffs that you've had over the course of time? What's your general feeling about this group?
I like the guys. Coach Palumbo and Coach Godwin have done a great job of assembling and recruiting a lot of good, talented players. Good guys is deep. I like the blend. We have some experience, returning guys with some experience, some starters. So then you mix that in with some younger guys that are kind of itching to, make a name for themselves, so to speak. It's good. It's deep. But like anything, I think experience is a huge piece of the puzzle. And then again, it's the new guys that maybe don't have as much experience, but they're showing us at least that they're ready to take the ball. And that's when we're going to say, hey man, give yourself an opportunity, which you're creating this opportunity for yourself. But again, there's a lot of guys that I like, older guys and younger guys. So I think the blend in itself is allowing us to continuously put our best effort to figure out, obviously who's going to start, who's going to be the middle relievers, who's going to be the setup guys, so to speak, and who's going to finish the ball games for us. So to have those luxuries, it's a good thing to have. Now we just got to go out there and, go see who does what. And we have a good idea, but again, some guys are going to step up and some guys may struggle, but at the end of the day, we like the experience we have and we like the blend of new guys that are stepping up and showing that they're capable of, taking certain roles for us.
Speaking of that blend, you guys have, it seems like 3 pretty good lefties with good stuff, even outside of Coach Manor with Whisenhunt, Mayhew, and Wilson. What does that do as far as, options as games go along, matchups, that sort of thing to help you out?
That's the great thing, as you know, and when you have all kinds of different varieties coming out of the pen or starting or what have you, but we have the luxury of that, and that's what you want to kind of counteract that, the lineups that you're facing, and to have those just 3 lefties that are very good. That's going to help us, I think, down the road in regards to matchups, and for them continuously, do what they can do, because the potential's there. It's just a matter of them being consistent and going out there competing at a high level. But to have them and other guys in the pen, it's just like I said, we're gonna, like I said, you can look down the roster and be like, okay, this guy for this guy and what have you. That's the good thing. Knowing we have the options we like. Now we just gotta, give them the opportunity to go for it, and who can handle the scenarios and situations as the guys are gonna get called upon at a high level. And we just gotta, get them out there and compete and have some fun and go for it, and we'll see what they can go from there.
When you look at Cam Colmore, he's a guy, him and Matt Bridges, obviously 6-year seniors, been around, but with Cam specifically, I mean, he went to South Central High School in Winterville. He's a local kid. I mean, what value does he bring as a guy who's been in Greenville and been around ECU baseball for years and years and years? What kind of value can that have, you think, in a season like this?
He's one of our, leaders on the pitching staff. He's been huge. He's just to hear the stories from him when he first got on campus to where he's at now. Obviously, the maturity and the growing up that he's done as an individual has been huge. And for him to share his experiences with our younger guys, it's something that's, he has so much pride in this program, being a local guy, that it's infectious, and he keeps on just helping guys get better and being a mentor and being a good leader. So with him, we feel it's a luxury, so to speak. He's kind of a Swiss Army knife. He can do many things for us. So he's a guy that we hold at a high standard, and someone that we're going to count on to play a big role in the pitching staff. Not just, you talk about many things, from just being a leader, talking to guys, helping them practice, to, like I said, is he going to set up? Is he going to start? Is he going to close? Like I said, he can do numerous things. We have a lot of faith in him. The experience that he has under his belt, and kind of just being an older guy, that's going to help, I think, tremendously for us throughout the spring.
Coach,
What are you?
He's a guy that Cliff talked a lot about taking a jump. Can you speak to what he did as far as really just in the offseason, as far as what led to that?
He was one of a few guys that had opportunity to play summer baseball. So I think that getting out there, and we wanted him to just focus on pitching only, has allowed him to kind of just channel his inner drive to grow as a pitcher. So I think he's done a good job in the weight room. He's really matured in our eyes, in the essence of just understanding the importance of, the weight training, the playing catch at a high level, his bullpen preparation. Everything he's done has been really at a high level we would like. So he's shown that. So now we're just watching him, and then all of a sudden he started this fall. We're like, wow, it's coming around. The velocity started increasing. Changed a couple things, Coach Knight, myself, with his couple of his grips and certain pitches, and we're seeing some potential there. Now it's just a matter of him just trusting in the work. And like I said, he showed a lot of potential this fall. And with that, we're like, okay, we don't want him to do more. We just want him to be himself and take that same approach that he had in fall to spring and just trust in all the hard work he's put in. He's done a great job. Like I said, this pitches come around and he's attacking the zone. As you know, sometimes freshmen, they come in wanting to do too much. And I think last year he was trying to do too much, trying to hit, trying to pitch. And I think it overwhelmed him a little bit, where that next year he's a little more mature and understanding what he needs to focus on. And he's putting in the work at a high level. And I think that's just a byproduct of hard work. Putting in the hard work, good things usually lie ahead. And so we're excited to see what he can do for us this spring. He's put himself in a good position. He's got to keep, staying positive and keep working, give himself the opportunity. But he's someone that's made good strides so far.
As a pitching coach, and I guess you can be as honest as you maybe want, but what was your first thought when you heard the 4-game weekend series thing?
Like, fine, let's go, bring it on. Like I said, we trust our guys. We believe in our guys. They all work hard. And if that's the case, it's just to get us out in the field. I mean, it's 4 games or 5 games, whatever, right? We're going to do everything we can to get out there to compete. We want to get our guys out there. And that's the thing that we have a lot of faith in. And again, you have to stay healthy and guys got to step up and show consistency. But we have a lot of faith in our pitchers to go out there and compete at a high level. Again, they understand what lies ahead. So game planning, we'll do what we can to give them the best opportunity to compete. But I think with the depth that we have, like I said, guys are going to be hopefully chomping at the bit to want to get out there and, hey, I want to pitch as much as I can, coach. And that's with, them doing the recovery and staying on top of their health and all the stuff that we need to monitor. But yeah, we're fine. Like I said, 4 games, whatever it takes. We're excited to be out there in spring to compete.
Is that kind of a follow up to that and a serious note of for you and teams in the American, is there any thought or that could help you for regionals, postseason, it almost might have a conference tournament or playing 4 games in 3 days. I mean, that you run into that in the postseason a lot in baseball. Do you think that can help teams in this league, potentially maybe when you get to regionals, super regional, that type thing?
Yeah, I can see that totally helping you. Like I said, it challenges your depth. So guys are going to step up and then you start seeing who can do what. So the more the guys can get out there and compete and experience they can garnish, it's just going to help them down the road. As you know, it's some of those guys that maybe don't get the ball as much, but they still work hard and they keep on doing what you're asking and doing. All of a sudden their name gets called and they're ready to go. So with the opportunity for us to play 4 games, like I said, it's going to challenge the pitching depth, but in essence, it's also going to help us, we feel, down the road, because like I said, you're going to tap into some guys maybe that you didn't have. Cause like I said, maybe someone's struggling or unfortunately if someone got hurt, then we have to go to the next guy. But yeah, I think down the road, this is stuff we're going to take the positive out of it and go, okay, well, that allows us to know to come with our best game plan when we get to the regionals and the postseason. So yeah, I think it's a huge positive for everyone really, but for us, we're excited.
Okay, are there any other questions for Coach Dietrich? Okay, Coach, thank you for your time.
Well, thank you guys. Good to see you guys.